WinWing Ursa Minor and Thrustmaster TCA, two most affordable Airbus sticks available for flight sims today. Welcome to the side-by-side comparison of these two. Ursa Minor is made out of ABS plastic, just like the Airbus Thrustmaster. It has a pincer gimbal, which in comparison to Thrustmaster should provide a more precise control and enhanced gaming experience. Under this plastic magnetic cover there is a hidden 5-way switch, pretty typical for many joysticks. And with this cover on, it maintains more realistic Airbus sidestick appearance. WinWing comes with the programmable breathe-in backlight, as you can see here. It has one single kind of a bluish white color. It's programmable, which means you can control it through the application that it comes with. You can turn it off, you can adjust the intensity, and you can also assign it to a different axis, so you can control the brightness through the axis. Light is a nice touch, although I can say that at times it can be a bit distracting. It's nice that you can disable that in application altogether. There's also a pretty interesting cutout with the light in it. Not sure why exactly they needed this. As you can see, the side stick comes with the detachable USB-C to Type-A cable, unlike Thrustmaster, which simply has a cable built in and you cannot replace it if needed. The base comes with anti-slip pads. As you can see, you have 8 in total, the bigger one and the smaller one. It also has a quick release cover, supposedly for some maintenance if you need to. You also can change a tension using a provided Allen key that comes with the side stick. And as you can see, there are also springs. It has pre-drilled holes for specific mounting needs. Overall, pretty neat design. On the front, you have long travel sliding potentiometer that I have mapped for the brightness control, but you can typically use it for throttle control or something like that. Pretty nice. Then you have an autopilot disengage button, really nice feel to it, really nice click. You have push to talk toggle at the bottom, and that's pretty much it. You don't have any other buttons at the top of it. Now, like I said before, the top plastic cover is removable. You don't have any magnets on it directly. Instead, you have just metal bolts. And under it, you have a 5-way switch, a typical hat that goes left, right, up and down, and it's also clickable, so you can use that as a button. The accessibility of this hat switch is not great. I will discuss this in more details later on. Now the side stick also rotates around its main axis. So you have yaw here. And that's pretty much it in terms of the upper part of the stick. If you don't need this rotation, or you have pedals for an instance, you can absolutely log this movement using the simple screw that comes with the side stick. You simply put it in here and you're done. It's going to be locked. When it comes to a Thrustmaster, it's a very similar side stick with quite similar number of controls. It has pitch, roll, and the yaw axis. It has a hat switch. And what's different is the thrust axis. It has a shorter range of motion. It is also not as smooth as the WinWing is. And what it seems just by looking at it, that it might have some kind of a reverse detent, but it does not have any of that. It moves up and down with no stop in the middle, no detent, so this is a bit misleading graphics. We have 12 black plastic buttons at the bottom part of the side stick, and they're kind of grouped together. At the top, we have the very similar autopilot disengage button, hat switch. It has more control in comparison to the WinWing version because not only it moves horizontally and vertically, but it also moves diagonally. Then custom button on the left, and the yaw itself has a slightly limited movement range in comparison to the WinWing. At the back, we have PTT and also additional button on top of the PTT. Both buttons have quite limited movement range and quite clicky. The yaw itself can be locked easily with the button at the back, so it does not move if you don't need it, and easily unlocked just like that, with the very same toggle button. Unlike WinWing, Thrustmaster is ambidextrous side stick actually, and it comes packed with two additional buttons that you can easily switch yourself depending whether you want to have a captain or first officer side stick. You have two screws for each of those buttons, and it's easy to swap. At the bottom, you have 8 small rubber feet, kind of the anti-slip thing, and also 2 holes for screws, and a little switch to swap sides, captain or first officer. Like I said before, unfortunately the cable is not detachable. And it's the same USB type A cable. I've been using Thrustmaster Airbus Sidestick for about a year now, and the WinWing for about 2 weeks. I tried it mainly in X-Plane, using tallest Airbus's A320 and A340. To my surprise, WinWing has a shorter range of motion, and quite often it seems to be a bit more sensitive in comparison to Thrustmaster, especially on takeoffs and on landings. And also it has improved pincer gimbal, which supposedly is a step up. It really doesn't feel like it's noticeably different from the Thrustmaster. It is definitely smoother, but a shorter travel range makes it a bit more challenging to make smooth and precise adjustments to the aircraft position. The other thing that rather surprised me was that the hat switch is not quite usable on the WinWing because it has a limited number of buttons behind it. You see on the Thrustmaster you can move hat switch to the left, right, up, down, and diagonally. While on the WinWing, you only have 2 main directions, which is horizontal and vertical, which means you cannot really move it diagonally, which is a little weird. Also, this hat switch sits quite deep, and I cannot easily reach it with my thumb, although I don't have small hands. I can easily pull it down, but it makes me harder to move it up, left, and right, because it sits so deep, a little out of reach, and it's generally hard to reach it. I ended up using it just in a single kind of pull down motion, just for the brakes. On the Thrustmaster, on the other hand, it's so easy to reach it and move it around. I really had zero issues with it. There's only one benefit I can see in the WinWing design is that this hat switch is actually a button, so you can click on it and map some custom action. If not the range of motion, the WinWing is a bit more smoother in the movement and it doesn't bounce back as heavily as the Thrustmaster does. You still feel a center bump a little bit, but it's not as noticeable as it is on the Thrustmaster. To be clear, both side sticks use a non-contact magnetic resistance sensor. They don't have any noticeable noise, and I had zero issues separating pitch and the roll axis. The ball gimbal on Thrustmaster is visible, it's not covered with anything, while on the WinWing you have a little plastic cover that hides all of the internal implementation, so probably it's more and better protected from any particles and dust. The yaw axis on the WinWing, on the other hand, has a better range of motion than the Thrustmaster does, and it feels more solid, smooth, and precise. Overall, WinWing footprint is roughly the same, but as you can see, it's a little taller, and the hand plate also sits a little higher, which is a little less comfortable if you simply keep your side stick like I do on the tabletop. It is worth mentioning that the PTT toggle on the WinWing is much more comfortable and feels like a real thing. While on the Thrustmaster it doesn't travel as much, but you have a few extra buttons which I found to be extremely useful. Since I don't always use pedals, I'm up the button of a PTT for the brakes and the other for the default cockpit view. I wish WinWing added something similar so I can easily access those buttons simply with one hand. Now I want to talk a little bit about this plastic cover that hides 5-way switch that sits at the top of the side stick. It's kind of a flimsy solution, to be honest. You might be thinking that this is great, and it is just for the looks. But each time when you touch it with your finger, it's so easy to just move it out of place. And then it takes a couple of seconds to get it back properly. And I feel it's like magnets are not strong enough. Surprisingly, it moves up really easily, but it doesn't move down that easily when it's placed into position. And yeah, behind you have just 2 metal kind of screws And the actual magnets are probably sitting behind this plastic part here. The other surprising thing is that if you put it upside down, it's not going to fit. So there is a very specific way you should put it down. And if you look closely at the back of this plastic cover, there's a little arrow that probably tells you where is up and where is down. So I think it's a great idea overall, but probably not the best execution. To adjust tension, just open up the plastic cover at the bottom and you'll see there are 2 screws for the pitch tension adjustment and one over here for the roll adjustment. After playing a while with those adjustments, I have to say that response is getting more mushy, and I would suggest not to touch them at all. There are also 2 resistance springs, one for each axis. Unfortunately, there are no replacement springs available in the box, but maybe in the future we'll see some. And those, I believe, will actually improve overall feeling of a side stick by making it more heavier. WinWing side stick works nicely with Thrustmaster Airbus Quadrant. I found no issue flying these 2 together in X-Plane and in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And as you can see, they kind of have similar colors, although the WinWing is a bit more saturated blue. But overall, together they look like a bundle. Same ABS plastic, same feeling, and quite similar colors. WinWing Sidestick comes with a bundled software that you can install on Windows. It doesn't seem to be available on any other platform. And here you can see that you have a single available device where you can test the device, calibrate it, update the firmware, and you also have some options to control backlight, rudder settings, and also the vibration of the side stick if you really need that. Dynamic vibration motor tab comes with some predefined profiles for different aircrafts. As you can see, it recognized that I have X-Plane installed with all of my aircrafts here. And at the key binding tab, you have some predefined profiles that I honestly haven't tried, but it seems that there's one available for X-Plane. Few things to mention here. First of all, the vibration that is built into the side stick is not a feedback motor, it's just a vibration. It has different settings for different aircrafts, and sometimes you can feel that when you extend flaps, it behaves differently. When you put the gears down, you will feel some vibrations, but I find it to be more distracting, so I simply disable it, and that's about that. As you can tell from the looks of this application, it's rather rough on the edges, and it's not really easy to use sometimes. It is simply not the best UI and not the greatest user experience, but you can do a few things there. I mainly use it maybe once or twice to disable the backlight and disable the motor. But there are a few quirks about this application. First of all, if you want to keep your light disabled, if that distracts you, you have to keep this application running with each Windows start. Otherwise, the flash will come back. It doesn't seem like the side stick itself has a memory, so the application purely controls it. Also, the light will go on with each computer restart, regardless of what you have in the application. Just as you can see here in the video, it blinks a couple of times. Eventually, it will go off, but someone might find that to be a bit of an issue. Hopefully, it will be fixed with the future updates, but we'll see how it goes. Also, I have experienced few issues with the vibration motor, although I've specifically disabled that in the application. I had a few instances while running Flight Simulator that it started to vibrate. I had to go into the application, enable it, disable it back, and then it stopped. When it comes to the X-plane, as of now, it does not recognize the WinWing as a side stick. As you can see, there is no image here, but it's relatively easy to map all of the axes, set all of the buttons, and here you go. During my testing, I tried to play around with different response curve for the axes, but honestly didn't have a great success with that. And eventually, I just settled down with what Tollis recommends for the Airbuses, is to just keep it linear, default settings, no input adjustments. So, on to my final thoughts. Is it a good product? Well, honestly, I think it's great. It has a great build quality, better than the Thrustmaster. It doesn't rattle much. Button layout is nicely spaced. You have quite precise clicks on each of the buttons. Especially impressive are pilot disengage button and PTT with great travel distance and quite realistic feel to them. Side stick shape is more realistic. Looks pretty close to real thing. You have a smooth rudder and thrust controls with long travel. Also quite smooth gimbal with a nice feel to it. On the other hand, gimbal travel is rather disappointing. Because of this, side stick feels a little less precise than Thrustmaster does. It's still not as heavy as the real thing is, especially when you go to the edges. Maybe spring replacement will help here. I don't know, we'll see about that. Build and tension adjustments are pretty useless. They make things worse, not better. Hat switch is not quite usable, and magnetic cover is somewhat flimsy. Vibration motor feels like a gimmick to me. Not sure if it's really needed for the Airbus simulations, to be honest. Software that it comes with is not a polished product, sometimes unstable, feels to me like it needs more development efforts. And it also comes in two separate products. You cannot as easily switch from captain side stick to the first officer. You have to buy another side stick. And the price? To be honest, I think price is really good, if not unbeatable at the moment. It's cheaper than Thrustmaster. Although WinWing products are often out of stock and it takes quite a long time to deliver them, I'm still waiting for my FCU pre-order that I made half a year ago. But the WinWing has a great roadmap of affordable Airbus products coming this and next year. They announced EFIS, MCDU, audio control panel, radio master panel, transponder panel, and who knows, maybe Quadrant will be coming in the next year. In conclusion, if you already own a Thrustmaster side stick, or you don't want to wait for the pre-order, my suggestion is that stick with Thrustmaster. It's still a great product, and WinWing model is not going to elevate your experience that much. I was hyped about it, to be honest, but frankly, in terms of pure handling, it is not that different. Thanks for watching.